When I was 8, the coolest car in the world was one of those. A Cadillac Escalade would be at the front of a presidential motorcade. It would be the car dropping the Hollywood elite off at the red carpet. And yet somehow it would also drop kids off at my school. People I knew got to school in the back of an Escalade. I didn't actually know them, I knew of them. They were at the main character table. If the stories of the school happened, it was at that table. When I didn't sit at that table. And of course I had pictures on my walls of Lamborghinis, and I watched Top Gear talking about a 250-mile-an-hour Bugatti that was gonna come out. Of course I wanted those cars, but I'd never seen one. I saw Escalades, and I saw the lives of the people who rode in them. How did my 8-year-old self put so much pressure on a Chevy Suburban with some Botox?
No Bentleys, Cadillac pimpin'. I'm riding spinners, they don't stop. I put Lamborghini doors on that Escalade. Low pro solo, look like I'm riding on blades.
My escapades exceed Cadillac Escalades. I best behave.
The world's most powerful SUV. Cadillac Escalade.
Cadillac's meteoric rise to fame in the early 2000s can really only be understood if you go back through their history.
If I was to say that Cadillac is to America what Mercedes is to Germany, I think I would only be partially correct. Both companies had some beautiful pre-war machines that really cemented them in the forefront of the Hollywood elite, and both of them have had really great cars throughout history. But only one brand has stayed at the forefront of the Hollywood elite throughout their entire history.
Every decade has brought with it a great Mercedes. From Gatsby to Gassy, they don't miss.
The same can't always be said for Cadillac. Cadillac was almost equally in the limelight from its inception till about the late 70s. At that time, they tried new things, which I think brought them away from what it meant to be a Cadillac, and they lost a lot of their market share to BMW, Mercedes, and even Lincoln that stayed with a more traditional rear-wheel drive architecture. Some of Cadillac's bling was just not there anymore.
This trend continued from the 80s through the 90s when most of Cadillac's customer base was probably dying of old age. They just didn't have that one car to put them back in the limelight.
But then something happened in the 90s that Cadillac was absolutely caught off guard with. The Lincoln Navigator.
With Navigator from Lincoln, your destination could be anywhere.
A full-size luxury SUV was not really something American brands had come out with, and it was such a sales success for Lincoln that in 1998 they overtook Cadillac as the best-selling American luxury brand for the first and only time in 59 years.
You instill strength, security, confidence. You are the Navigator from Lincoln. What a luxury should be.
Cadillac scrambled to find something to offer against the Navigator, and they came up with the barely convincing facelift on a Suburban that was the '98 Escalade. That was the first and last time they would play second fiddle. Gone was the barely a facelift on a Yukon. In its place were bespoke panels. That front grille ensured that Cadillac was never going to get silver again. Capitalizing on what the consumer actually wanted, Cadillac designed this around the idea of it being easy to justify. This thing towed 8,000 pounds, seated 8 people, and had every interior feature you could want on the early 2000s. Cadillac figured out that the people buying these didn't give a flying hippopotamus what was under the hood. They wanted it to work and they wanted it to be powerful. So a 6-liter LS was exactly what Chevy needed to put in here for that to work.
Of course, the Escalade gained villain status by being the official vehicle of Russian oligarchs in movies or real life, and the urban bunker feeling of a high ride height gave drivers security never felt before. But the ultimate acceptance to the limelight was that early 2000s rap boom, which also put music videos in front of your eyes with Escalades at the forefront of every single one of them.
Strangely enough, this wasn't the first time that the affluent African-American community saved Cadillac. Back in the 1930s, during the Depression, Cadillac was on the brink of being shut down, until someone came into the boardroom and had the revolutionary idea of, and I quote, "Stop banning the sale of our cars to black people."
Weirdly enough, Cadillac doesn't often bring up that part of their history.
Say what you will about the consumerism image of the Cadillac Escalade, at its heart, it's never been a hard vehicle to justify. Our roads are big, our gas is cheap, this thing can do everything from the school run to launching your boat and a light bit of off-roading. It was never difficult to talk yourself into an Escalade.
Which ultimately brings us to the question of today. What does one do with the status symbol of 20 years ago?
Buying a 21-year-old Range Rover could have you spending money faster than a politician from Nauru. Cutting-edge technology, brand new powertrains, these are all things that don't age very well.
That's not bad. It's not bad at all.
But the Cadillac wasn't cutting edge. Every mechanic from here to Florida will recognize the 6-liter and a 4L60. Cadillac recognized their value in just being big. A 21-year-old Escalade is a Chevy truck. Slightly more, but nothing less.
20 years later, you can reap all the benefits of near total depreciation, keeping all of the luxury features it had when it was new at the repair costs of a pickup truck. It's still practical, it's still roomy, and yes, fuel is expensive, but so are car payments.
Of course, I still think the Escalade is cool because I remember it when it was new. But pop culture's moved on and its value as a status symbol has fallen because new things have arrived to replace it. But what I wish I had understood when I was 8 was that the long-standing value of the Escalade was going to be what it was based on, not what it looked like.